This episode of the Oh No 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 podcast is sponsored by Dynamic Industrial Services, the rope access specialists. As long-time Raith Rovers supporters, we are very familiar with ropey performances. But if you need a service that's more Sam Stanton than Willie Accio, look no further than DIS. Operating across Scotland, they specialise in working at height, offering maintenance, inspection, repairs and more. So if you've got a problem at a height that even John Fredrickson can't reach, visit dynamicindustrialservices.co.uk to find out more. Welcome back to another Thursday night Oh No 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 and another double header episode as we look back on Tuesday night's 1-0 win over Partick Thistle at Firhill and look ahead to Saturday's trip to Hampden to face Queen's Park. My name is Duncan Cameron and joining me tonight we've got Robbie Weir. First of all, how are you, mate?
Yeah, happy to be back and after the 5-star performance of last weekend, shall we say. Defeating the Townies for a 5th time in a row this season, so very happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. Remember, we'll come back to you. I want 5 minutes from you on that. Actually, now that we've got you back again. But we have Scott Fleming as well. How are you, Scott?
Yeah, really good, mate. And yeah, I was also glad to be back for that game at home with Dunfermline and get another derby win and another clean sheet against them.
Absolutely. And also, someone who was over for that game for the first time in a long time. It's Carol Allison-Smith. How are you, Carol?
Finally warm. Finally, I saw sunshine today, which was lovely, which I did not see all weekend, but I didn't care because the result was amazing on Saturday. Definitely.
Have you got your limited edition Sam Stanton vest top yet?
Not yet. I'm working on it. It was at 23 degrees today, so I'll need to get it for my next run.
I say limited edition, not because there's any limit to the supply, it's just you will be the only person who wants one. So it's a unique item.
Have hope. There could be a tropical Scottish summer.
There could be, but I'm not convinced. My fence is blown down twice in the one winter. This has not been good weather for us.
Duncan's fence is falling down.
Not even joking, it's currently held together with giant cable ties. It's a really, really bodged job.
Sounds like the Dunfermline defence, to be fair, right now.
Yeah.
Excellent link, thank you, mate. Let's just stick to the Dunfermline game for a little bit. I didn't realise, actually, all three of you haven't actually had a chance to speak about it. So let's just get a quick kind of whip round on that. And Carol, we'll stick with you, because obviously it was a big game for you, first one in 4 years, was it? And then kind of at the same time, there was the International Women's Day stuff as well. I know you were heavily involved in. So give us a wee rundown on that, please.
So it was my first Rovers game in 4 years, but back of a pie napkin calculations, I think it was my first time watching Rovers play the Pars since the 90s. Because I've lived in Spain for 17 years and I was like, I can't be that long. But yeah, I think it is. And it was... and seeing all the International Women's Day stuff was just amazing. Meeting loads of people was great. Having people come up and say they knew me and I had no idea who they were was a little bit weird and disconcerting on several levels, but we're fine. Did have a little bit of an emotional moment when Christina shouted out Sam Stanton because she was living the dream. I thought that was a brilliant moment, and it was like that was what it was all about. And yeah, you've got to see that 5 times this season. Don't beat Dunfermline. I was that you lucky.
I was
buggers.
Saying that in the group chat.
Buggers.
Like, Christina's derby record is insane. It's actually insane. She must have only seen us lose about, I think, based off like what I can think off the top of my head and the time that she's supporting, I think she's only seen us lose once, which was the game at East End Park during the COVID season. because the first, like she said, that the first derby was the one when we were in League One and we tagged them in the Scottish Cup. And other than that, we've just scudded them, like, continually. It's great fun. Christina Beattie, where have you been?
I know.
Aye, they're just the perfect time
where
to
are
start
you?
watching those derbies. Starting with that 3-0 cup game and then just riding it through. None of the penance the rest of us had to do first.
Yeah.
Aye.
But Robbie, what about that Pars
And
game then?
Starks Park. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, sorry, Carol.
On you go.
I was going to say the atmosphere in Starks Park was amazing. It's a long time since I've seen it that full, and everyone seemed to be having a really good time. Yeah, it was definitely an experience on Saturday. Something that was, yeah, I won't forget in a long time. It was really good, really good. And the result obviously helped. If we'd lost, I don't think it would have been the same. So I'm taking the win.
Quite right.
Aye.
Robbie, give me your thoughts on that game.
Yeah, it was as expected. It was a really tight and nervy game, but I mean, Stanton's really good feet and awareness to get that goal, given the circumstances. I know that you guys touched on it on the podcast before, but he almost like takes a step back to nod it towards goals. Just Dennis Mehmet's just useless goalkeeper, which always helps. And then after that, we just completely rode the pressure. I've seen McPake's been saying that Hugh Otto's got an injury for them, apparently. That's why he got hauled off, which does make a bit of sense, but also very, very funny that the likes of Lewis McCann, Matty Todd, Kane Ritchie Hosler, all these players that they've hyped up for months and months and months, had the square root of zero impact on that derby game and just looked all out of sorts. And much like all the derbies before, they just looked very toothless up front. Jakubiak, we knew what we were going to get from him. A lot of work, a lot of hustle, but absolutely no end product. And when they made the change and brought Lewis McCann on, you just kind of felt like, they're losing it here. And then that Easton goal, just really, really, just a bit of genius play. And a brilliant performance from everyone on the pitch, just defensively solid. Great to see a clean sheet for Big Kev, and again we'll go on that on the other front against Partick. But an excellent atmosphere at the day, just as Carol's touched upon. Really nice to see the International Women's Day. You see stuff like Christina like getting opportunities on the commentary and things like that, or the Tannoy even. And it's very much a case that it's great to see these sort of foundations and these roots like that we've got with the ties with the fans coming to fruition. So yeah, just overall really, really good day to be involved with Raith Rovers Football Club, and beating them 5 times in a season, which really should have been 6, where we were very, very unlucky not to be 6. It was funny because I was actually speaking to, unfortunately for viewers on audio, pointing to my chest, got my Kev Dabrowski t-shirt on. I was actually speaking to Kev last week and I said to him, like, the Arbroath game, obviously, he made a mistake, but nobody's going to care about that if you have a good game in the derby and we win, because that's the first time that we've beaten them 5 times in a season. And by God, did he make up for that? What a save! Like, that's all everyone was talking about after the game. Like, how good even the Dunfermline fans are sitting there saying it's one of the best saves they've ever seen in the flesh. So, yeah, long may it continue.
Absolutely. And Scott, anything you want to add to that from your brief trip back to Scotland?
No, I just kind of echo what the guys have been saying. I mean, I think I was the same. I was back home for the one in January at East End when O'Reilly got the 2 goals, and I must say I was a wee bit nervous during the one at New Year when they had scored, because it was a little bit like, right, we're playing with a broken goalie and everything. But this one here, they had a lot of the ball that first half, but they did nothing with it. Like, I think they must have had most of the possession was at the halfway line, just between the back 3, passing it about side to side. And I think Murray just went, "Oh, we're fine with that. You're not doing anything with it." So just we'll come and press you once you come across the halfway line, sort of thing. But no, I thought, we looked pretty comfortable, and then once that second goal went in, it was just almost like party time straight away once that went in, because it was like they might have still had a chance, obviously, whilst it was 1-0, but I just did not see them getting 2. And thanks to that, what's his name, Wet Wipe Hayes or whatever,
Oh, very funny.
Sideshow Bob just moving it the way for that goal. It was ridiculous. If
Or-
that's my defender, I'm screaming at him. I'm pulling him off for that. That's pathetic defending. Like, just I don't know if he thinks that he's in the way of Mehmet, but if anything, I would be blocking in to get to Mehmet. So I think, aye. So it was quite funny watching that, and it was just on repeat seeing that in the highlights was pretty funny. But no,
the defence was
it's another big win, and it continued us on to putting the pressure on to Dundee United sort of thing.
our defence was as tightly locked as Scott Ingall's Twitter account through to Monday morning.
Oh.
Definitely.
Has he responded to anyone?
Of course not.
Of course he's not.
He's an absolute wet wipe of a human being. It's hilarious. Like he just chucks the toys out the pram, and then as soon as we lose, he's straight on about the Twitter posters. And very funny though. And you've got to take football in that context. It's like never anything personal against anyone. You just slag each other's football teams.
Exactly. As we've said many a time, it's a good laugh. So let's move along a little bit then. Let's move into Tuesday night. So Rovers went to Firhill. I think 3 changes to the starting lineup. I think I'm right in saying. Aidan Connolly came in for Josh Mullen, who I think took a bang in the ribs. And it sounds like he might well miss this weekend as well. But Ian Murray in his interview saying that first training session after the Dunfermline game is the first session of any kind that Josh Mullen's missed all season, which again I think just speaks volumes for how like clearly kind of fit and the how well conditioned Josh Mullen must be when you see them at the yards he's running as well. But in addition to that, so I think Kyle Turner came in for Lewis Vaughan. It's maybe a slightly surprising omission from the starting lineup, but again, with 3 games in a week, it does make sense. And Jack Hamilton came in for Zach Rudden up front. So going into this one, it's quite a difficult one to call, and I think we said that in the pre-match. But Thistle, a really funny side where they're really decent going forward normally. You know, you look at the front 4, they've got players that would be certainly challenging to get into any 11 in this division. But their back line is not quite kind of up to snuff, particularly at the moment with the injuries that they've got, and they're kind of holding midfield goes missing a wee bit as well. And what I think we saw in this one, to kind of make a slightly overall point before we go into the detail of it, is just what you said about the derby there, Scott. I didn't think Thistle really managed to kind of get in behind us at any point, and I think largely that's down to the way that the Rovers are defending in the derby and in this one, where they're kind of quite happy for the game to take place in front of them. And you could see in the first half there was a couple of points where that front 4 from Thistle, there's one in particular where Scott Robinson turns Ewan Murray almost inside out with a lovely little kind of touch in the inside of his heel. That was kind of the only real chance that they were getting, was in trying to do that, because with the game in front of them, the Rovers were defending really, really well. But Robbie, I'll come to you first of all. In terms of the kind of opening kind of period of this game and the way that the Rovers set up, did you feel like it was going to be a positive outcome on the night?
It was really hard to say when the game initially started. We saw very little of the ball in the Thistle half and only created a couple of chances, really, in the sense that the only real effort that we had in the first half was when there was sort of the defensive mix-up, and Jack Hamilton's almost, you could see that he was caught in 2 minds about either taking the ball down and lobbing the keeper or trying to lob him with his head. And he doesn't quite get the power in his head, unfortunately, to be able to do that. But by and large, Thistle, as you say, lots of the ball, lots of attacking movement, but very little to show from it. It was, I think, Fitzpatrick or Lawless, one of the two, had a shot that was, he basically broke free and got in behind the defence. And it was almost like he, rather than taking a shot, it was like watching a defender clear it into the stand because, like, they were nervous. So, yeah, for all the attacking front, Thistle didn't really cause that much danger, but at the same time they were still in and about. Naturally, Brian Graham's always going to be a threat, and I know that you posted in the group chat about sort of almost a jokingly like man skips leg day type meme for Partick Thistle because they've got very little at the back. But yeah, it was quite a strange game for all their defensive flaws. We didn't really do too much to really test them that much across the 90 minutes, but still came away with the win. So again, you're never going to complain about that. You're only ever going to remember the fact you picked up 3 points. So that's it.
Yeah, I think one thing that did help them is they had been playing Lewis Nielsen in the midfield, but they had to drop him back because of injuries that they'd picked up. And it meant they put Harry Milne out to left back because he'd been the one filling in at centre half. And I think that probably helped them defensively, just playing people in the right positions tends to. And yeah, you're right, you're absolutely spot on that first half. The Rovers really, again, with the caveat that the game was mostly in front of the defence, hadn't they really actually broken out over the halfway line until Kyle Turner just kind of hooks that ball over his own head almost. And from the other end of the park, like from the stand, I thought it was in. And just as soon as Jack Hamilton heads that over the goalkeeper, directly behind it, it looks like it could only be a goal. It's only seen it on the highlights. She's actually kind of... It is tricky just with the way it's in front of him, and he manages to kind of get it over the keeper, but can't quite get the power on it. But Carol, give me your thoughts on the kind of the first half as well, please. Kind of up to the goal.
Up to the goal. It did feel just that it was stuck in the midfield, and I think Partick Thistle's tactic was get it to Graham. That just seemed to be what they were doing. Lob it up front, and fingers crossed that he'll score. I just have to touch on it. What is with that Partick Thistle mascot? He looks like he's about to do everybody in when he walked on the pitch at the start of the game.
Good old Kingsley.
That's the first time I've kind of... He's scary as hell. Just like...
Tartan
is that meant to
sarong.
encourage children to football? Because it's certainly not doing that. And yeah, it was just dull in the midfield, I think. But at least if they're in front of us, they're not behind us. And I think that's a good enough tactic at the moment.
Kind of, what do you find
about Kingsley? Like, we do release posters on a weekly basis just to noise people up that are meant to be aimed like at children. But I
was just going to ask Carol what you find kind of more like visibly offensive. Is it Kingsley or is it that goalie kit?
That's a difficult question. The goalie kit. The goalie kit. I'm going to go with the goalie kit. It still annoys me the game that they played it where they almost looked all the same, and every time you wear it, it's just terrible. It's just like someone vomited on the shirt. I don't like it. No. Yeah, that's the most offensive thing.
Yeah, it's like very, very washed out kind of tie dye almost. It's an odd choice, but the Rovers do then take the lead in this one. For some reason that I can't fathom at all, as you say, Carol, they're kind of playing off Brian Graham, which is definitely the best way to use him. You know, they've got Fitzpatrick, Robinson, and Lawless, you know, all kind of buzzing around them, and their movement's really good. And then for some reason, Brian Graham pops up with the ball kind of in his own left-back area, heading towards goal. And I think almost realises, before he's even been dispossessed, in his own head, he's like, I'm going to have to just foul someone here. Like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And so it does happen. The Rovers put good pressure on him, and straight away he's just like, no, this is bad. So we get this free kick. The setup is slightly unusual, I think. And it's maybe just the camera angle kind of suggesting this, but the Raith TV highlights show it really well, where it's framed up kind of behind Kyle Turner, and there's no other Rovers players in shot. So their starting position is so far out to come running in. And it's a brilliant cross. A couple of people said this on Tuesday night. It was like, I think that might be the first time that Kyle Turner's actually had a chance to take a set piece since he's been with us. And Ian Murray said in his interview, actually, that he'd been, about a week now, they've been letting him do it in training as well. Just like, it just seems nice.
That's nice.
Like, you know, renowned set piece taker, proven at this level, Kyle Turner, for a week has been allowed to do it in training. But to be fair, I think we saw the benefit of that week's practice that he's had, because it's an incredible ball in. It's brilliant, really, really is. But without taking any quality away from the cross or the header, Scott, would you expect your defence and or your goalkeeper to maybe handle that a little bit better?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Ewan Murray kind of summed it up in his interview after the game with Raith TV that he thought the keeper should have done better. And I mean, I think I was a little bit surprised that the keeper got such a big hand to it, and that still managed to. But this is what we've been saying about Big Kev, is that he just seems to have the stronger wrist where he can just palm it out of danger, whereas a lot of keepers, they've not got that. And I was listening to you guys talk about it after the Dunfermline game, and I mean, just that conversation basically summed up what happened there, that the Partick keeper wasn't as strong as what Kev was going for that ball. I mean, didn't get me wrong, I thought it was a very good dart and run for Ewan Murray. It was a superb cross in, perfect weight, everything, and all he needed to do was just direct it, basically, and that's what he did. And I mean, all you can do is try and hit the target and hope that the keeper does what he does and kind of fumbles it in for you, or that he doesn't get to it. So no, I thought it was just good to see Ewan Murray as well getting on the score sheet and us scoring from a set piece for a change, because usually it's the other way about and we're conceding them. So I was more chuffed the fact that, well, one, that Murray got his first goal since returning to the club, but also the fact that we actually scored a set piece goal. And once you get that goal, it's then you know, right, they need to come at us even more now, and we need to try and just, especially when we scored as well, it was that sort of time when it's like, right, just get to half time and we'll deal with the second half later. But yeah, it was only 10 minutes to half time, so it was kind of just settle yourself down and then make sure you don't lose a goal before half time. One thing I wanted to add, actually, just after the goal, I actually thought the boy Macbeth was very lucky to stay on the park. He got booked, and then within not even 2 minutes, I can't mind who was on Co-Coms or BBC, but they said, see, if he hadn't been booked, that was a booking. And see, what I didn't get is, if it would have been a booking and he's not on a booking, why is it not a second booking then?
Yeah,
I didn't get it.
I kind of thought the same thing from the stand, although I kind of agree with either the Michael Stewart or the referee's interpretation or whatever it was, whereas I thought, like, the first one is the most obvious yellow card you will ever see in your entire life. The second one, I did think, it's probably not quite enough for a second yellow. Like, I didn't really... I think it would have been... I can absolutely see why people were asking. I think I was asking for it at the time, shouting and bawling.
All our players were asking for it.
Why the players are looking for it. Like, absolutely, you ask the question. I think it would have been a little bit harsh to book him for that. What I was quite surprised was that Dolan left him on. And then, to be fair to him, he finished the 90 minutes and he ended up playing centre-half, I think, actually, by the end. But at that time, it looked like it's one of these where if he sneezes on somebody in the next 10 minutes, he's going off. So I was quite surprised, as I say, that Dolan didn't take him off. I actually thought he didn't look that out of place for a guy that they'd picked up out the juniors in the window there.
He's played it pretty much every game since he's been there.
Yeah,
so...
and he looked fine. He wasn't a standout or anything, but handled it better than I think I would expect somebody from Glasgow or whoever it was they got him from. Just to go back to what you're saying about the goalkeeper as well, it was slightly earlier in the first half. It was two chances relatively close, one after the other. One was a free kick, I think, from Brian Graham. The other was, I think, Lawless had a kind of sort of scissor kick type half volley effort, and Big Kev, he saves them both in exactly the same sort of manner, and I actually can't remember which one's which, but one of them is I think the free kick, he gets to as you would want him to and he pushes it away. The other one, it's slightly closer to him and he probably sees it slightly earlier, and there was a little bit, not anything massive at all, a little bit of a grumble around me in the stand. Might have just been one guy saying, like, oh, catch that. Like, you've got time. And I think some goalkeepers probably would. But I think one of the strengths that Kevin Dabrowski has is he does that all the time, if you know what I mean. Like he doesn't think about this shot's coming to this side, am I going to catch it, am I going to put... He just is in his mind, 100%, I'm just going to push this away.
Aye.
Like, unless it's coming at him, he's like, I'm pushing this away. And it's more likely to go out for a throw-in than it is for a corner. With the strength, as you say, Scott, he gets behind that. And I think that's a strength. I think that's one less thing that he has to think about, so he's not losing, a split second making a decision. He just knows what he's doing. And he's there because he's not wasting any time. He's behind the ball, two strong hands, pushes it away, gets rid of the danger. And you see it time and again. I think it's a real strength.
Probably helps the defence as well because they know what to expect. I mean,
absolutely.
Maybe at the start of the season you're uncertain, but by now you're like, okay, he's going to do this. We can get this away. We know what's happening. Just reorganise. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think predictability is an underrated feature in a defender or a goalkeeper as far as your teammates are concerned. But Robbie, anything you want to add on the goal?
I think it was a testament to the ball that Kyle Turner put in. The fact that Ewan Murray just ran onto it really. He didn't have to jump, didn't need to do too much. It was just put on a plate for him, and he's done so well it's a bullet header really. And the keeper, I mean, arguably could do better, but at the end of the day, it's like, oh, nobody's going to complain from our side. And like Scott says, great to see him get off the mark as well. It's going to do him the world of good. And it put us well in control of the game because it gave something that Thistle, they're in their heads now thinking, oh, we're on a really bad run. What's that, 7 out of win? Some really poor performances. And it gives us something to hold on to. And it puts a bit of pressure on them, knowing that we are so far ahead of them in the league. So, yeah, really good.
Definitely. And Carol, anything for you on the goal? And then actually also just after that, there's a kind of half chance for Jack Hamilton. The corner kick kind of pops up. Any thoughts on either of those two, please?
On the goal, I liked the video that got put out, just seeing that the goal was built from the dugout, that Kyle Turner went back to Ian Murray, and it like it. This is something that we've practiced, that we're confident in. I've seen this in training. Let's go with it. So, like you say, Duncan, predictability. So, I've picked up on the last few Ian Murray interviews. He's definitely talked about things I've seen in training. So he's going for the predictability, going for something they've practiced, seeing something on the training pitch and going, we can replicate that. So, the half chance, I thought we could have had two before the half time, and I would have went in a bit more comfortable, I think, because always, I don't know, after Arbroath, in the back of your head, you're always thinking, oh, this could be another one. This could be another one, especially when it started to rain. I was like, oh, that's it, we're done. But no, I really enjoyed that little video, actually, from seeing it started in the dugout with Ian Murray and stuff. So that was quite good. You
can tell it's definitely the kind of goal that there's other people beyond just kind of Kyle Turner and Ewan Murray who deserve credit for that. I know Robbie Thompson previously was doing a lot of work with the set pieces, so whether it's something that he's been involved in or whoever else involved in that backroom team, but definitely one that's had a bit of planning behind it. So you can see that just with how kind of deep or the opposite of deep that they start from that starting line. You see the defence aren't happy with it at all. Just after half-time, I think the kind of first notable incident of the second half, it's another kind of Jack Hamilton, I don't even know if you can call them half chances, but between sort of the three of them, and I don't even know how much culpability there is, but I think Jack Hamilton in himself will feel a little bit disappointed he didn't come away with the goal. With the one that he gets the header that he gets over the goalkeeper, the one that kind of pops up almost into his hip when he's about 3 or 4 yards off the line, and then the third one, the goalkeeper really kind of gives the ball up to him on the edge of the box. I'd say I don't know how critical you could be, especially this third one, because the goalkeeper, for all he makes the mistake, is right out at him. And before Jack Hamilton's had a chance to even really control it, the keeper's right out at him. But kind of after that, I thought the second half sort of settled into a familiar kind of pattern. But I don't know how you felt watching on the telly. In the stand, I felt like a kind of a goal on the break looked as likely for a lot of that half as Thistle getting one back did. Scott, would you agree with that, or maybe not?
I think just with the players that we had on the park anyway, that we're probably going to have a chance on the break no matter what. I think on that Hamilton chance, I just think that he was almost just shocked that the keeper had done it. Then anything is and then just by the time he's reacted and by the time the keeper's out to him, he's taken, and his touch was a bit heavy, so he didn't really give himself even a half chance at it. But I think he was just more surprised that the keeper mucked it up. But I think when you're on like a pitch like that at this time of year in Scotland, you've kind of sometimes got to always believe that a keeper might do so, because he hit it first time as well. He didn't even look to take the touch. So I just think when a striker should know that it could happen, like you should always have it in the back of your mind, sort of thing. But it happened so quickly. Fair enough. But I think Partick just seemed to huff and puff a lot of that second half, and we were just, for once, we actually kind of, until maybe the last 5 minutes, we looked pretty comfortable. And then the last 5, it was almost like the boys went, right, we're so close now, and actually put more pressure on themselves. And then by that time, Partick really had us pinned back, and it was like corners, free kick, everything was coming in. And then I'm just glad that we managed to sort of deal with it, but, well, by the post. But it was it was a bit of a nervy watch, I'd say, from about 85 minutes onwards, because I think before that I thought we were fairly comfortable despite Partick having a lot of the ball. And I'm not buying into this, we were playing anti-football. I mean, I'm sorry, if Morton or AJ, whoever, if they were second place and at that point in time, a point behind Dundee United, you're not going to still be playing gung-ho football. It's just not going to happen. No. So, and I think we were the first team to... Partick have not... that was the first time they failed to score at home since a 5-0 home defeat on the 21st of October to Dundee United. So it just shows you they're good at home. So the fact we managed to do that as well was pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing for Thistle was they didn't sort of run out of steam so much as they kind of ran out of ideas. I felt like first half, as I said already, they've got that front four and they look pretty sharp, and like they looked like they might create chances more than they actually created chances. Second half, that seemed to kind of drop away a little bit, and I just don't think they had anything on the bench to kind of turn to. Even kind of typically in their recent games, they've had Tommy Adeloye to come on for Brian Graham, but they just he went off injured in the game before, so they put Rico Diak, I think, came on.
Diak's son used to play for Berwick.
All right, I didn't know that. But he's kind of
really young, good prospect though. Yes.
Snatched at the couple of chances that he did get, and you kind of wonder. And I think they left Brian Graham on as well, but you kind of wonder if a more senior striker maybe does slightly better with that. But one thing I did think during that second half, and again, you don't know how different these things come across on the telly versus at the game, but I suspect it didn't. Carol, were you looking for maybe a couple of Rovers substitutes, maybe 5 minutes earlier than we got them?
Yeah, I thought we might have gone in for the kill and just sort of like, we'll let them get out, run their legs, put Rudden on, and we'll get a second. You were kind of going, anytime now would be good. The second half did feel very thick in the middle. That there was just not a lot happening, not a lot of movement. Both teams really should have done a substitute a lot earlier than they did. Don't think Partick had the options, but we definitely should have had someone on earlier. I think we could have had a second, because at the last 5 minutes, like Scott said, you were just like, we should have... I would have been happier at 2-0 than 1-0 those last 5 minutes, obviously, because that post saved us.
Felt to me in particular, Aidan Connolly and Sam Stanton both looked like they were really kind of running on empty, and you know that was Sam Stanton
looked like he was done.
I think
There was
I was
one
saying
shot
that.
where he was just bent over and sweating buckets and just looked like he was done, but then he just stands up and goes again.
Yeah,
It's just
like, when Stanton's visibly tired, that like he is at a level of kind of knackeredness that most of us can only imagine. And then Jack Hamilton, by the time he actually did go off, he was obviously kind of struggling. Well, there maybe been an element of just buying a bit of time there, but it didn't look like that to me. It looked like he genuinely was kind of struggling. Excuse me. But fundamentally, the ends kind of justify the means. You cannot kind of criticise the manager for coming through a game like that with a clean sheet and then start complaining they didn't put subs on any earlier. It's he's come through that, and then you've got guys who are 5-10 minutes fresher for the weekend than they would have been otherwise. There was obviously the one kind of huge chance at the end. There's kind of two. So Brian Graham has a header that goes up the top of the bar, and then I think it's Harry Milne in the middle with the kind of glancing header that comes back off the post. Robbie, give me any thoughts you have on really those kind of later chances and generally just the end period of that game, please.
Yeah, the second half of the game felt almost split into like three parts. There was a spell where Thistle were like creating chances at the start, and then it went into like a lull where it was almost like they were getting the ball to the edge of our box and then just losing it, and we'd run up the pitch and looked like quite decent going forward. And then it got to like the final 10-15 minutes, and then it just became all out pressure as we kind of were like, okay, we can see this out. A 1-0 wins a good result. I feel like a lot of the narrative going into this game was that if we lose or draw that game, that United then have a chance to go against our hapless neighbours along the road at East End Park on Friday, and then really put pressure on us going into the Saturday. That's totally gone, and it didn't happen at all. We're a point behind after going to a very, very tricky venue, and we bettered the result that they got at Firhill recently as well. So for all that they bettered us at Arbroath, we've gone one better at Thistle there. To be honest, it was very funny because the end of the game, I'm sure everyone else was freaking out, but my stream was so delayed that it was literally came up and flashed up that it was full time before I even saw the Milne shot hit the post. So it came off the post and I'm thinking, oh, that's rough, but it doesn't matter because we've won. Great result. So I'm off cheering that we've won and they're hitting the post, which was nice. But overall, just a really assured defensive performance. And I know that they came into it in the top, but you're always going to concede chances against a side like Partick Thistle. We are not going to have a game unless they have a very, very off day. We're never going to have a game against Partick Thistle where you see us completely whitewash it and we're going to Firhill and scoring 3 or 4 and they're not getting a single shot or opportunity. So yeah, really, really well done. It was Leslie came out with a statistic earlier on that we must be verging on to starting more of our matches with Scott Brown at centre back now. He put in a really assured performance. And then across the piece, Ewan Murray, Liam Dick, James Brown, all really, really good. Kyle Turner probably had his best game in a Rovers shirt.
Definitely.
But I'm going to insist that we put in a segment about the return and the continuing renaissance of Ross Matthews. So if we can come back to that, I would be truly grateful.
I think next thing on my notes is man of the match. So I suspect his name would have come up anyway. So why don't you keep the baton and talk about Ross Matthews for a bit, and then Carol can have a shot.
What an absolute pleasure. I said on Pie and Bovril, Ross Matthews is the epitome of professionalism at the club right now, because by all accounts, he wasn't getting a game time. It must have been very, very frustrating for the guy. He's came back after a long-term injury and you're not getting the minutes on the park. But he's just chipped away and chipped away and chipped away, and he's managed to get in off the bench, and then he's started games, and now he's putting in performances like that against Thistle. And that's the Ross Matthews we know and love. And we all wanted to see that. Everyone wanted to see that. So the next step is give Ross Matthews a new deal. Give him a new contract, because we all want that. We love him to bits. Just a really, really... Just a very... It's tried to say, but it's like he's a meat and potatoes footballer. Like, he just does all the dirty work. He'll put in 100% effort. He's got that wee streak about him where he can be a bit cheeky, a bit gallus, and just body a player if he needs to. But yeah, just a really, really assured performance from him in the middle of the park to help see us over the line. And I think he's going to be a huge asset going forward for the next 8 games or so that we've got left in this league. And if we can get him performance to those levels on a regular basis, that's a new signing for us. Like, nobody's going to dispute that. So for me, Ross Matthews, man of the match, clear as day, very, very impressive, and just very, very good performance.
If Ross Matthews is a meat and potatoes footballer, is it like Chateaubriand and I don't know what the equivalent would be, Dauphinoise potatoes? I don't know. Something like
that's
that.
A pretty top tier potato there.
Yeah. Carol, give me your thoughts on Ross Matthews as well, please. I know you're a big fan.
Well, I've been shouting for him to come back for weeks, and I was on Saturday was so happy to see him start and to see him back. And I bumped into Andrew Barrowman at the game, and also got a tour of the dressing rooms, which I had a moment of complete silence and panic because all the players were in front of me and I couldn't say a word. I just got like 16-year-old football fan of, oh my God, there's Lewis Vaughan moment. But Ross Matthews, what I said to Andrew Barrowman is the level of professionalism in the club is like night and day from the last time I was there. And I think Ross Matthews is just the epitome of that. He's been waiting patiently to get his chance, and I think he's our secret weapon. We know how good he is, but I don't think our opposition are ready for how good he is. And like Robbie said, he's a new signing. I think he's going to be key to the next 8 games, and he's going to be a shock to Dundee United when we play them.
I think it speaks volumes that the very last kind of action of the game, the ball kind of pops out the back of the box, and kind of Vonnie's already there because he's been kind of staying on the outskirts as the kind of potential outball. And it's Ross Matthews is the first one who's kind of on the scene, and then what might as well be like a trademark at this point, just snaps into the tackle, and the Thistle player barely has any idea that he's there before the ball's away, and then Vaughan only has to run about 5 yards before the whistle goes. But it's 90 minutes he's done before that, and he's right there putting that challenge in. Scott, any alternative pitches you want to make for a man the match?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the 2 boys that were involved with the goal, to be honest. I thought Murray... I actually would have given Murray man of the match on Saturday for the Dunfermline. I mean, I thought his head had been taken off with one of the shots he blocked. It was the thud of it, and then he was just lying like flat out. I was like, God, he just really throws himself in front of anything, and it's the sort of defender you need and you want is somebody that's just going to put everything on the line for you and run through a brick wall for you. And as Robbie said, just so delighted he got a goal because like it's just something that he's deserved for ages now. And the fact that we got a win as well was just an icing on the cake, a clean sheet again for him. So. I think I was probably leaning towards you and Murray, but I did think it was Kel Turner's best game in a Rovers jersey since he signed in January. Obviously, we've not seen a lot of him probably in the last month. Well, basically since Stanton's been back, we've not really seen him at all. But I thought for the fact that he's not played and then just stepped in and then produced that ball as well, I thought he was worth a mention as well.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think I would have Matthews as the man of the match, but Kyle Turner, very worthy of a mention alongside Ewan Murray, definitely.
See, with Ewan Murray, it's really good just to see how, I know that it was every time he kind of does an interview with Raith TV, it gets touched upon the circumstances that he's came back, like after leaving for Dunfermline, and then he comes back. I'm involved in another group chat with a few folk, and one of them was very adamantly like not happy about the signing of Ewan Murray when he came back, and then the other night he's like, I am so happy to admit that I'm wrong. I'm very, very I've been singing his praises for weeks, and again it's just that humility and just how he goes about his business, and just comes across as a really nice guy, very get the job done. And on a final mention as well, if we're speaking about the Thistle game, we mentioned all the Thistle fans that were heartbroken by Kevin Dabrowski's insistence of changing the ball to the other side of the penalty box every time he's taken a goal kick. Wasn't time wasting. I know that it upsets you all, but we were all having a great time, and it was just a really good laugh. So sorry.
That's it. It's the kind of sensible game management that we were maybe missing a couple of times earlier in the season.
Yeah,
I thought they managed the game really, really well against Dunfermline and did it again on Tuesday night. But let's look forward to this coming weekend now. So as I mentioned before, the Rovers go to Hampden, site of one of the very most enjoyable moments of the season so far by a fair degree. That's slightly tinged with sadness now that Ross Millen's kind of no longer an active kind of member of the scene, but definitely a thoroughly enjoyable afternoon, that one. Sadly, we don't have Robin Veldman anymore to kind of contribute in his unique way to our dramatic victories. And looking at the league, so Queen's Park are still in this kind of bundle of teams in the middle where there's so what is it? Morton, Airdrie, Queen's Park, Dunfermline, Ayr United and Callum Thistle, and you could kind of throw a napkin over all four of them. Robbie, do you think Queen's Park are maybe actually a shade better than the other three teams that are in there?
100%. I feel like the first two games that we had against them, I mean, we were very fortunate in the sense that we got two last-minute winners to win them. And we did make life very difficult. The last game at Starks, they controlled it really well. And speaking of game management, that was a masterclass in game management from Callum Davidson that day. He did organise them so well. Sean Welsh got brought in and did really, really solid job for them. And it was a very frustrating afternoon. They've scored a lot more goals, but at the back they've been sort of haphazard. Really thankful to Callum Ferry for how they've done based on what I've read. But I feel like they've tightened up a lot now and they're in a false position in the league. What I would say is that they are going to be missing Ben McPherson. He unfortunately suffered a second ACL injury of his career. We obviously all know all about how important that can impact a player, so all the best to him, and hopefully he makes a swift return. But the real surprise that they've had recently is Killian Sheridan coming in. By all accounts, he's been exceptional for them. I know he's been seen as sort of like a doting journeyman who's got an exceptional sense of patter on Twitter, but he's came in and he's doing a really good job just acting as sort of foil for your likes of Dom Thomas, Rudy Payton. It's going to make no qualms about it. This is, I would say, Saturday's going to be a tougher test than Firhill was, and Firhill's a tough test, but at the same time we should have complete confidence that we can go there and cause some problems. It was a tight game at Starks and they got the edge on it, but I think that's true of all the games that we've had against them this season, so very intrigued to see how we go. And just a final word, the Hampden pitch isn't substantially bigger than anywhere else at Starks, compared to the last time that I did this podcast when I made that statement, and I was very quickly informed by Ian Latto, whose brother's a groundsman, that that was an incorrect and factual statement. So yeah, get that one out the way quickly. Dispel the myth.
Yeah, I think earlier in the season, really the overriding feeling is that Queen's Park were their own worst enemy. And we talked about that at great length after our games with them, where they kept doing this kind of mad sort of self-sabotage in various different ways. And that is the one thing, the biggest thing that Callum Davidson seems to have gotten rid of is actually just kind of being sensible first and foremost, and then bringing in Sean Welsh. And as you say, Killian Sheridan, who was a borderline a joke figure by the end of his time with Callum Thistle, where he could not get a sniff.
Need to do a bit of reading as well, actually, and see how Danny Wilson's done, because he's, again, it's a signing that's a very surprise one when you look at it. But
man of the match at the weekend.
Was it?
I think.
Oh, Christ.
I'm fairly sure I saw a photo of him with a bottle of champagne. So they're definitely a much better, much more effective kind of outfit than they were earlier in the season. And that, they're still in that sort of relegation threatened blob but I think they're almost suffering from a bit of a drag from their start of the season, as opposed to the likes of Partick Thistle and Dunfermline, who seem to be terrible now.
They're doing a Morton. Picked up a
Yeah.
second, final third of the season. They've picked up and they're doing a Dougie Emery special of we're absolutely dross, we might get relegated, this will be very funny, and then they just rock it out of nowhere, end the league really strongly. So,
aye, definitely. Scott, turning to the Rovers, lineup wise, who do you think might come in here? In particular, actually, Keith Watson, I think we might see back again, or at least he's back in contention.
Yeah, I think we've all now watched Ian Murray's pre-match interview that came out today, so I think it sounds like Watson will definitely be involved at some point on Saturday. I actually think he might just... The fact that Watson's been so steady when he's played, I think he actually might just go straight back in. The fact that he was quite quick to say that he fully trained. It wasn't he was at training. It was he fully trained. It was all good. So I think that's almost to say look, he's absolutely fine, and we caught his groin injury really early. So I've put him in my lineup that he'll probably come back in to start, and that it probably then moves Brown back into midfield, which is where he should be playing, but obviously has had to fill in at centre back. But I think I've done what Ian Murray doesn't do, but what I would do every week, which is always want to play a 4-2-3-1. So I've got obviously Kevin goals, the back four of James Brown, Watson, Ewan Murray, Liam Dick, with Brown and Stanton as the two in midfield. Connolly on the right with Mullen still likely to miss the weekend. Vaughan back in at number 10. Easton out on the left and Jack Hamilton up front. Although we don't know if it sounds like he's not picked up any injury from Tuesday, so whoever it is, Rudden or Hamilton, I'll be happy with either of them up front, to be honest. But aye, and then we've still got arguably one of our better benches of the season still. So
Scott, we were so close. I have a team laid out in a 4-2-3-1, and I've got every single player you've mentioned, except I've got Rudden instead of Hamilton. But to be fair, I'm the same as you. The reason I've gone for Rudden over Hamilton is just how shattered Jack Hamilton looked by the end of that game. I actually thought, in terms of effectiveness and doing the job they were supposed to do while they were on the park, I thought Jack Hamilton was actually a fair bit ahead of Zach Rudden. But Zach Rudden, obviously coming off the bench in a game like that's not the easiest thing in the world by any means, but I thought it was the least he managed to kind of affect a game since he's been with us. Just that they couldn't really get the ball to stick at all when it came on. But yes, certainly if there's anything that we can say, it's definitely not going to be any lineup anything like you and I have picked, Scott. That would be a terrifying world to live in. Carol, how about you? Anybody in particular that you would like to see come in or retain their place, or anyone you think might be due a wee seat on the bench?
Well, it's who do you drop? It's always the question, who do you drop? So you write it down and then you're like, oh God, I've missed off Stanton. So I think it's Turner. I'm gonna take Turner out from Tuesday's lineup and put in Watson. So I'm gonna go Brown, Watson, Murray, Dick, and then Scott Brown. I might keep Matthews on, but again, it's how shattered everybody looked on Tuesday. So the only reason I'm putting Rudden up front is the same as you said. I think Hamilton looked absolutely broken. And I just think Rudden will be fresher legs and Hamilton will be better to come in off the bench. And yeah, Easton, Stanton and Connolly. 4-3-2. 4-3-2-1.
And Robbie, I do want to hear your 11 as well, but I believe that if anybody listening, they think they've got a better chance of predicting this lineup than we do, and let's be honest, they do. You're running a wee competition off the Twitter this evening. First correct prediction of Ian Murray's 11 wins a Sam Stanton t-shirt. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely spot on. The new Sam Stanton t-shirt that got released recently, that seems to be doing well. we basically, if you list your lineup and what you think, the first person that gets it correct, and we'll do it by timestamp. So if you snooze, you lose.
Just
sorry,
make sure the clock is in the video behind me in case I was correct with my lineup there.
Exactly. For me, myself,
I'm
I'm
an
going
hour
to...
ahead. I don't get that's unfair advantage.
There's someone sitting in, I don't know, Papua New Guinea or somewhere like that, just like, raging.
All competition entries are at Starks Park time.
Yeah.
I also said mine's a minute before Duncan.
So a 4-2-3-1. I'm never going to get this lineup up based on this competition. So Kev, Dicko, and James Brown obviously is your full backs. Murray and Watson is the centre backs. I've gone with Scott Brown and Byrne in the holding roles. I just think, again, Matthews, man of the match the other night, but he's played a lot of football recently and a good impact player to come on. I would have Lewis Vaughan as a number 10. I would play Connolly, I would play Vaughan out wide with Connolly. Turner as a number 10, give him an opportunity to play in there, and then Zach Rudden up top. But again, I am not Ian Murray, and this is going to be very, very wrong. So, yeah.
If there's one thing we can all say with confidence, it's that we will not be even close to that. Robbie, are you prepared to accept entries in the YouTube comments for this competition as well?
Am I feeling that generous? Go on.
Right, perfect. And just to be clear, it is only the first correct one. If by some freak occurrence more than one person gets it, we're not giving away loads of t-shirts. It's, there are limits.
It's not a charity here.
Exactly. So I think that's probably about all we'll do in terms of the Queen's Park game. I think, as you say, Robbie, we're all kind of looking forward to it. There's absolutely no reason for the players not to be absolutely full of confidence, but it will be interesting to see, actually, just genuinely how much more of a kind of an evolution Callum Davidson's put this Queen's Park side through, because they do just look like a more well-drilled outfit than they did earlier in the season. I'm going to make a very generous offer, just very briefly, in light of Dunfermline playing Dundee United on Friday night. I'm just going to suspend any comments that I have previously made up till this point about James McPake and or Alex Jakubiak. I may retract those comments permanently, depending on how they do on Friday night, but I suspect I will be doubling down on them, because I can't see them doing us any favours based on their recent form.
They're not going to do us any favours. Let's be completely honest here.
The fans are already claiming that they're like, we'll let you beat us. But they don't need to let anybody beat them.
They are doing perfectly well themselves, just being crap.
But they don't care about us. They definitely don't care about us, Scott.
No.
Oh wait.
So we'll see how. I don't know. Maybe Tony Watt will get sent off for over celebrating his 5th or something. But before we wrap up for today, with Robbie returning, he's here to reclaim his Should McStay or Should Dargo crown after he won it and then wasn't available to rightfully pose the next one. So I think it's only right that we have another round tonight. So over to you, Robbie.
Now, I'm sure you guys are going to get this at some point, right? But if you don't get it, do I get to keep the crown?
Yes, I think that's fair. I think if we can't get it in whatever it was, 6 or 7 or something like that, then yeah. Although now I'm really worried about who this could be.
Right. So 6 questions here for you, or 6 statements, shall we say? So number 1, I am a centre forward.
All right.
Anyone want to buzz in?
We're not saying our names, are we?
No, I'm not saying my name. I am going to go for Ethan Varian.
Okay.
I'll go with Greg Spence.
Next question. Because my mind is going.
You sure? There's no harm in putting in a guess, Carol. No harm in putting in a guess.
My mind has gone completely blank. I can't even name our current squad right now. You put me on stupid pressure.
If only you guessed Jack Hamilton. Wow. Number 2. I have played 65 times for Rovers, scoring 19 goals.
Ooh.
I think I might stick with my answer for now.
Now, I could be wrong. I'm fairly sure Ethan Varian didn't score 19 goals.
Or play 65 games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I'm gonna go for. Oh no, can't be him. I can't think. God, Gregory Taddy. I'm gonna go for Gregory Taddy. It's not him, but.
Carol?
I'm with Scott. I think it's Greg Spence, but I can't take the same as him. So, yeah, mine's gone blank again. Pass.
Okay.
Sticking with Jack Hamilton.
Yeah. 65
We'll give you
games,
that. We'll give you that. Question number 3. Most of my playing career was spent in Scotland, but I did spend a year overseas.
I mean, again, it's definitely not Gregory Taddy, but I can't think of another one, and I'm afraid of too much dead air.
Any guesses?
I don't think Spence has played abroad, but yeah, I'm trying to think of anybody that we've had that has went and spent a year abroad. I'm going to stick with Spence for now because I can't think of anybody that's got a stint abroad. No, never mind. Sorry, Robbie, on you come.
Okay. My son has played with Ryan Porteous, Ryan Stevenson, and another Rovers player this season.
Who's old enough to have a son?
Right.
not Greg Spence.
No, it's definitely not Greg.
Okay, Greg Spence did have the kid recently.
I know. That's
prodigy.
That's some debut.
Some left foot that kid's got.
So sorry, just to clarify that one, right? So played with Ryan Porteous, played with
Ryan Stevenson,
and
another Rovers player this season.
Played with another Rovers player, another ex-Rovers player.
A current Rovers player.
Presumably this, or it would have to
Yes.
play with them this season. I
Current
suppose.
Rovers player. Current Rovers
So
player.
a current Rovers player, Porteous, and the Ryan Stevenson with all the tattoos.
No.
Oh.
And to expand on this, the Ryan Stevenson that does not have the tattoos also used to play for Raith Rovers.
Yeah, he plays for Bonus.
He was at Boness or something. He was in that development team that did really well.
Hang on a second. His son has played with Ryan Stevenson. Ryan Stevenson, I think, has only played for the Rovers and Boness. Robbie, I'm trying to think of Boness United players' dads. This is
right. The next
Kick
point
Robbie
might
out the
help
room and
you.
have a conversation.
I once featured in a film with Ali McCoist.
Oh, right, hang on.
I know the film you're on about, but I've not really seen it, so I'm stuck.
Oh,
It's
right,
a shot
I
of
have seen
glory.
it.
Yeah.
Is it Robert Duvall? No, right, okay.
Right, I'm taking that as your answer. That is your answer. Robert Duvall, the famous ex-Raith Rovers player.
Right, I feel like this is now a team effort, Scott and
Yeah.
Carol. I'm not convinced we are going to get this
No,
individually.
I'm certain you're going to get it with question 6. Like,
Because I'm trying to think, right,
and
who
it's
else?
supposed to be a
What have we
question
had?
who's
Have we
first.
had 4?
Wait. So, hang on, a player
You've had
who's
5.
I've had 5.
Was that 5?
So
Who's the year
what was that,
overseas?
Scott?
Was that 5, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's number 5.
Right.
So, a centre forward, played 65 times for Rovers, scoring 19 goals. Most of his career was spent in Scotland, but he did spend a year overseas. His son is currently playing with Ryan Porteous, Ryan Stevenson, and another Rovers player this season, Kieran Mitchell.
That's Kieran Mitchell,
And he's
because there's a
featured
Ryan
in a-
Porteous who plays for Bo'ness as well. I get it
Yeah.
right. I see,
Yeah,
I
there
see
you
what
go.
you did there.
Right? I once featured in a film with Ali McCoist, A Shot of Glory. So what time was that film?
It's the mid-90s. I'm trying to think who else is in that film, because there's a load of real player, like actual players in it. And
Was
on a
Peter
real
Henderson not in
block.
that film?
Like, if it's a 90s one, I'm just going to have to guess somebody that was playing for the Rovers at that point, because that, obviously, my
So
sort of
So, like,
time was...
Didier Agat,
Nelson.
it's not Didier Agat. Didier Agat is in that film.
Is he?
Yeah.
Peter Hetherston's in it.
He plays for Rangers in it, actually.
I don't know how many games he played and how many goals he scored, but my only guess is going to be his name's in the title, Craig Dargo.
Craig Dargo from Scott.
And he played in the 90s.
I'm going to go for Andy Smith.
Well, that brings us nicely on to question 6, which is I scored the goal which won us the match to get us promotion from the 2nd division.
It is Andy Smith. Against Berwick Rangers, was it?
Correct. Absolutely correct. So, yep, the
Well,
answer.
I would have been there till
Robert
next year
Naval,
because I've
it was
never read them.
Andy Smith. I did
had
worry,
no
as I
idea.
said, I did worry if it was a bit niche, but yeah.
I didn't
He spent
know.
a year playing for a club in Calgary, in Canada, apparently. So in
Is that
1989.
not who?
So,
Isn't that where Willie Akio is now?
no, definitely not the same team. Because if you Google it, it's what
Are they
definitely
defunct?
Calgary
Yeah,
Kickers.
Cavalry. Yeah.
I didn't realise Andy Smith's son played for Bo'ness.
Yeah, well, I didn't either until I checked his Wikipedia page earlier on, and I was like looking frantically for because I was going to initially keep it because Christina was meant to be on tonight until life cropped up. Keep it within her time frame for Rovers, but I figured I'd be able to expand it out given that we've got a bit more time since then. But again, I made it a bit too niche, I think, with that one. But we'll live and learn.
A Shot at Glory, by the way, well worth watching if you've not seen it. Just for, I mean, it's a terrible film as a piece of cinema. It's horrendous, but for just the number of different kind of cameos and stuff. Ian McCall has a speaking part. Which
I did find as well. I think it was like a red top article, one of the Daily Record or the Sun or something, and it's one of those headlines that naturally, as these papers are designed to do, to jump out, and it's John McVeigh. Apparently, Robert Duvall went to like kiss him on the cheek or something like that, and John McVeigh then tried to knock him out. Which, aye.
Bob Duvall's accent in that is remarkable. Michael Keaton's in it as well, but Michael Keaton at least just gets to have his accent. He just plays like the obnoxious American owner who is threatening to move the team to Ireland for reasons that are never really made clear. It's just like, I think he just fancies Dublin more than, is it Kilknocky, I think is the name of the
Kilknocky, yeah.
geographically ambiguous football club. But it has
You know what's really annoying as well?
dozens of...
We wouldn't be able to use the Shot of Glory reference and linking into this for the tweet for the podcast tonight, unfortunately, because it might
It'll spoil the game.
Aye.
Yeah. I think that the most surprising thing about that film, other than the fact that Robert Duvall is in it, is that Ali McCoist is genuinely quite good in it. He's possibly... Bear in mind, Robert Duvall was in The Godfather. Ali McCoist is maybe the best actor in that film, which is quite remarkable. But Anyway, that's probably enough of that. That was a good round though. I enjoyed that, Robbie. And you don't get to retain your crown. I'll get to pose a role on next
That's
time.
very true. Very true.
Which I much prefer.
I was very, very sneaky with the fourth question about the Ryan Porteous, Ryan Stevenson, and another player, and I did have to. That's why it was good detective work from Scott to ask the one with the tattoos. And
Well, I
then as
knew
soon
we
as I
had
said
the young Ryan Stevenson playing with us, and I was just like, I better just make sure that.
I'd completely forgotten that there's a Ryan Porteous who plays for Bo'ness as well. But I
didn't even know that.
Know.
I was still thinking, right, somebody in the Watford Academy.
But we will definitely we'll get another round of that. I think that's a good chance somebody's got that quite early on. I think somebody will have got that based on the 1 year overseas. As always, blanket. I will not believe anyone who claims they did, but I could see somebody potentially could have got that one quite early on. But once again, thank you everybody for listening and for watching. We will see you on Saturday at Hampden Park for the second part of our Ouija double header, and we will be back on Sunday with another episode to kind of pick through everything that's happened then. In the meantime, if you do want to see more from the podcast, check out the show notes in the description underneath the YouTube video. Remember the competition. If you would like to try and win a t-shirt, all you need to do is the very simple task of naming 11 Raith Rovers players in the right order. Although at this stage, I think that genuinely might have longer odds than like the Euro Millions with the way that team selections have been going this season. So, as I say, thank you very much. We will see you again soon. Goodbye.
Bye.